There's a version of your life that looks almost exactly like this one. Same morning, same responsibilities, same number of hours in the day, but something is different. You feel clearer, less reactive, more in control, not because everything around you changed, but because the way you move through the day quietly did. That's not a fantasy. For millions of people in Japan, that feeling isn't the result of some dramatic life overhaul. It's the result of small, almost invisible habits practiced so consistently that they eventually become the person. Not productivity hacks, not morning routines with 17 steps, just a handful of principles, some centuries old, some embedded in daily culture, that shape how a person starts, works, rests, and finishes. And what's interesting is this: none of them require more time. Most of them ask for less effort, not more. They're not about doing bigger things. They're about doing ordinary things with a kind of quiet care that compounds slowly, then all at once. Let's walk through 8 of them. Habit 1. Ichigo Ichie. Treating this moment like it won't return, what it is. Ichigo Ichi is a Japanese phrase that roughly translates to one time, one meeting. It's the understanding that this exact moment, this conversation, this morning, this cup of tea, will never happen again in exactly this way. Not a reminder to be grateful, a reminder to be present. Why it matters. Most of us move through our days on a kind of low-grade autopilot. We eat while scrolling. We work while half thinking about something else. We talk to people while mentally composing what we're going to say next. And the result isn't just distraction. It's a life that feels thinner than it should. When you treat each moment as unrepeatable, your attention sharpens on its own. You don't have to force focus. You just remember, this won't come back. What most people do wrong. People try to manage their attention by eliminating distraction. They remove apps, use timers, put their phones in other rooms. All useful. But the deeper shift isn't about removal, it's about arrival, showing up fully to what's already in front of you. A real-life example. Consider a simple morning meal. Most people eat it while reading something, watching something, planning something. But when you sit with your food as the only thing, no screen, no background noise, something shifts. The meal takes the same 5 minutes. But you actually experienced those 5 minutes. You finish feeling settled, not scattered. Try this today. Pick one thing you do every day. A meal, a short walk, the first 5 minutes of work, and do it completely without a second activity running alongside it. Not to be mindful in some abstract sense, just to actually be there while it's happening. Habit 2. Kaizen, the practice of getting 1% better. What it is, Kaizen means continuous improvement, but not dramatic improvement. The philosophy centers on making the smallest meaningful upgrade to a process, consistently, over time. It became famous in manufacturing. It belongs everywhere. Why it matters. The reason most improvement efforts fail isn't lack of motivation at the start. It's that people try to change too much at once, burn through their initial energy, and quietly return to where they began. Kaizen works differently. It asks, what is the smallest thing I can improve right now? Not the most impressive thing. The smallest useful one. 1% better today doesn't feel like anything, but 1% better every day for a year is a person who is genuinely transformed. Not dramatically, but irreversibly. What most people do wrong, people wait for the right conditions, the right season to start exercising, the right amount of free time to write, the right level of confidence to begin. And while they wait, the gap between who they are and who they want to be slowly widens. Kaizen doesn't wait for conditions. It operates on whatever is currently true. A real-life example, someone wants to become a better writer. Instead of committing to write 1,000 words a day, a goal they won't sustain, they commit to writing 2 sentences every morning before anything else. Just 2 sentences. Within 3 months, the habit is so natural that they're writing paragraphs without thinking about it, not because they pushed harder, because they started smaller than felt necessary. Try this today. Choose one area you've been trying to improve. Now find the version of that improvement so small it almost feels pointless. Do that version today. The goal isn't to feel accomplished. The goal is to make the behavior feel normal. Habit 3. Wabi-sabi. finding stability in imperfection. What it is, wabi-sabi is the Japanese aesthetic of finding beauty in imperfection, incompleteness, and the natural passage of time. A cracked bowl repaired with gold, a weathered stone in a garden, something worn by use rather than preserved for it. As a habit, it means releasing the quiet tyranny of perfect conditions. Why it matters. Perfectionism doesn't look like care. It looks like progress. It feels like high standards. But underneath it, there's often a fear of beginning anything that might turn out flawed, which is, of course, everything. Wabi-sabi doesn't lower the bar. It relocates it. The goal isn't flawless output. The goal is honest, present effort. What most people do wrong, people confuse doing their best with doing something perfectly. These aren't the same thing. Doing your best is available right now, with the resources and clarity you currently have. Perfectionism postpones until better conditions arrive, which they rarely do in the form expected. A real-life example, a person wants to start a business on the side. They spend 4 months designing a logo, refining a business plan, building a website they never launch because the copy isn't quite right. Meanwhile, someone else starts with a simple offer, a plain email, and a willingness to be imperfect in public. 2 years later, one of them has customers. The other has a better logo. Try this today. Find one thing you've been delaying because it isn't ready enough. Send the imperfect version. Submit the rough draft. Start the flawed version. Not because quality doesn't matter, but because the version that exists is always more useful than the version that doesn't. Habit 4. MA. The discipline of intentional space. What it is. Ma is a Japanese concept often translated as negative space or the pause between things. In music, it's the silence between notes. In conversation, it's the beat before responding. In a room, it's the empty corner that makes the furniture breathe. As a daily habit, Ma is the practice of protecting empty time. Why it matters. We've built lives in which every gap gets filled. Waiting in a line, phone comes out. Riding in a car, podcast goes in. Sitting quietly for a moment. Immediately. Feels like wasted time. But here's what that constant filling costs you. The ability to process what you've already experienced. Your best thinking doesn't happen during input. It happens during the space after input. Ma isn't rest exactly. It's the fertile pause where things settle into meaning. What most people do wrong. People treat busyness as evidence of value. A packed calendar feels like a productive life. A quiet afternoon feels like laziness. But the brain doesn't categorize it that way. Downtime isn't the opposite of output. It's a precondition of it. A real-life example. 2 people finish a long meeting. One immediately opens their inbox. The other steps outside for 3 minutes without their phone. Later that afternoon, the second person solves a problem the first one is still stuck on. Not because they're smarter, because they gave their mind room to process what it had already received. Try this today. Build one small Ma into your day. After lunch, after a meeting, after finishing a task, take 3 to 5 minutes where you don't consume anything. No phone, no music, no podcast. Just exist in the gap. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is the habit working. Habit 5. Ganbaru, showing up fully without drama. What it is. Ganbaru is often translated as to persevere or to do one's best, but the nuance goes deeper. It carries no drama, no performance of effort. It simply means you show up, you apply yourself, you keep going. Not because it's exciting, because it's what the moment asks of you. Why it matters. Motivation is unreliable. It arrives with energy and disappears without warning. The people who achieve things over long periods of time don't have more motivation than others. They have a quieter relationship with consistency. They don't wait for the feeling. They've made the action independent of the feeling. Ganbaru is that independence. What most people do wrong. People treat their effort level as a response to their emotional state. Feeling good, they work hard. Feeling flat, they go easy or skip entirely. The result is a career, a body, a skill set that reflects not their real capacity, but the average of their moods. That average is lower than most people would accept if they saw it clearly. A real-life example. A musician practicing every day doesn't always feel inspired. Most days, it's just scales, just repetition, just showing up to the instrument whether the session feels good or mediocre. And what happens over months of that consistency is something no burst of motivation could produce. A level of skill that belongs to them regardless of how they feel on any given afternoon. Try this today. Identify the one habit or practice you most often skip when your energy is low. Commit to a minimum version of it, so small that completing it requires almost no willpower. On hard days, do only that minimum. Not as failure, as consistency. Habit 6. Siri. The habit of releasing what no longer serves what it is. Siri is the first pillar of the Japanese 5S organizational framework, and it means sort or clear out. In practice, it's the discipline of regularly removing what no longer has a purpose from your physical space, your schedule, your commitments, and your attention. Why it matters. Clutter doesn't just live in rooms. It lives in inboxes, in open browser tabs, in half-finished projects, in obligations you said yes to months ago and quietly resent now. Every item in your environment that no longer serves a real purpose is drawing a small amount of your mental energy just by existing. Siri restores clarity not by adding anything, but by subtracting what's become noise. What most people do wrong. People organize clutter instead of removing it. They buy better storage containers for things they should have let go of. They color code tasks they should simply decline. The problem isn't disorder. The problem is volume. You can't organize your way out of having too much. A real-life example. A professional realizes their task list has grown to 63 items. They feel perpetually behind and vaguely anxious. When they sit down and apply Siri, ruthlessly asking of each item, "Does this still matter? Does only I need to do this? What actually happens if this never gets done?" The list drops to 11. Nothing important was lost. A great deal of mental weight was. Try this today. Choose one area, your physical desk, your task list, your phone's home screen, and spend 10 minutes asking a single question about each item. Does this earn its place here right now? Remove what doesn't, not eventually. Today, Habit 7. Shokunin Spirit. Bringing craft to the ordinary. What it is. The shokunin is a craftsperson, but the word carries something deeper than technical skill. It refers to a person who approaches their work, however ordinary, with complete dedication to doing it well. Not for recognition, not for reward, because the work itself deserves it. This spirit can be brought to any occupation, any task, any interaction. Why it matters. Most of the things that quietly define the quality of your life aren't the big moments. They're the small ones done well or done carelessly. How you respond to an email, how you prepare for a conversation, how you clean up after yourself, how you finish a task rather than just completing it. When you bring shokunin spirit to the ordinary stops feeling like something to get through. It becomes something you're actually doing. What most people do wrong, people save their real effort for things they consider important. They coast through what seems routine. But here's what that costs. The person you're becoming through repetition is being shaped by how you handle the ordinary far more than by how you handle the exceptional. The exceptional rarely arrives. The ordinary never stops. A real-life example. A chef who owns a small restaurant doesn't have a wide, different approach for busy nights versus quiet ones. The quiet Tuesday night gets the same attention as the full house on Friday. Not because anyone is watching, because the food doesn't know the difference, and neither does the customer in front of them. Try this today. Pick one task you regularly treat as unimportant, a reply, a meeting, a chore, and do it today as if it genuinely mattered. Don't perform effort, just bring a little more care than usual. Notice how that small shift changes your experience of the task itself. Habit 8. Owari Mashita. The power of actually finishing what it is. Owarimashita simply means it is finished. In Japanese work culture, the act of completing something, fully, cleanly, before moving on, is treated with a kind of respect, not rushing through the end to get to the next thing. Closing the loop properly. This is a habit of completion. Why it matters. Your mind keeps a running list of unfinished things. Every open loop, every half-done project, every conversation you never quite concluded, every task you started and put aside, holds a small piece of your attention. even when you're not consciously thinking about it. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain remains attached to the incomplete. Finishing things cleanly and deliberately doesn't just clear tasks, it clears mental space. What most people do wrong: people confuse activity with completion. They stay very busy moving through things without actually finishing them. They end a workday with 15 things in progress and nothing truly done. That state of perpetual incompletion is exhausting in a way that's hard to locate because it doesn't feel like any one task. It feels like a general fog. A real-life example: someone adopts a simple rule. Before ending their workday, they close one thing completely. Not their most important task necessarily, just one thing brought to a genuine stopping point. An email answered fully, a document finalized, a conversation followed up on. Within a few weeks, they notice something. The end of the day feels different. Not lighter because they did more. Lighter because what they did is actually done. Try this today. At the end of today, before you close your computer or set down your work, identify one thing you can finish completely. Not start, not advance, finish, then finish it. That one closed loop does more for tomorrow's clarity than any planning tool will. 8 habits, all of them small, none of them dramatic. Ichigo Ichi, treat the moment in front of you as unrepeatable because it is. Kaizen, get 1% better every day without waiting for conditions that feel more worthy. Wabi-sabi, begin imperfect rather than waiting for perfect, because the work that exists always matters more than the work that doesn't yet. Ma, protect the space between things, because that's where the meaning of things actually settles. Ganbaru, show up fully, without drama, especially when you don't feel like it. Siri, release what no longer earns its place in your life, regularly and without guilt. Shakunin spirit, bring your real attention to the ordinary, because the ordinary is most of your life. Owarimeshita, finish things cleanly, one at a time, because completion is a form of clarity no system can give you. None of these will change your life this week. That's not what they're for. They're for the version of you a year from now, the one who looks back and realizes that the change didn't come from a single decision or a single breakthrough. It came from a quiet shift in how you moved through ordinary days. Not louder, not faster, just more intentional than before. You don't have to start with all 8, start with one, the one that felt most true when you heard it. Practice it until it stops feeling like a practice and starts feeling like you. That's how this works. Not all at once. One small, consistent thing at a time. If this gave you something to think about, consider sharing it with someone who could use a quieter kind of motivation right now. And if there's one habit here that's already part of your life, or one you want to try, drop it in the comments. Reading what resonates with other people is one of my favorite parts of making these. Take care of yourself. Small steps every day.